Hi guys, welcome. We're here at the F Cafe at the 88th Avenue in Banilad, and I am with a former congressman and a former Tourism Secretary. Now he's vying for the position of Governor of the province of Cebu. Ladies and gentlemen, and everyone in between, Mr. Ace Durano.
Hi Jiggy, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Ace.
Thank you for rescheduling this. I know this was supposed to be 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, and it's supposed to be earlier, but we felt like it was kind of hot as well, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Thank you so much, Secretary Ace Durano, of course, vying for governor of the province of Cebu City for next year's elections. Ace, being a Durano has its ups and downs. It has its advantages and its disadvantages. The Duranos have been a political family for a long time, from as far as I can remember. When I was a kid, I've heard of the name Durano. I remember clearly it was 83 during the snap elections. Remember that? I think it was 83, right? Was that 83?
You can't remember. I don't remember.
And I hear the name Durano a lot. Being a Durano has its advantages and its disadvantages. There are good Duranos and there are bad Duranos, I venture in saying. So maybe Ace, for the benefit of our listeners and viewers, give us a little historical perspective in which you come from. Give us a story of Ace Durano.
Well, like all of us, you know, we are a product of our environment. We are a product of our education. Where we grew up, our friends and all. I cannot speak for, you know, my grandfather, my father, because they're products of their generation. They're products of their environment. I went to school here in Sacred Heart, and first year high school, I was shipped to the U.S. Shipped to the U.S. No consultation. No choice.
Okay, why the word shipped? What happened?
No, we were just shipped to the U.S. to study there.
Okay.
And
so after graduating high school?
After graduating high school. So I was in the U.S. for high school and college.
Okay.
And then when I came home, that's when I took up my law school in Ateneo in Manila. And pretty much I've been educated by the Jesuits. Pretty much that tells you who I am. You know, Jesuit educated in the U.S. in that environment where, you know, a person is just as equal, is just as important as the next person. And I carry that to this day. I think that's really what made me who I am. You know, growing up during those adolescent years in the U.S., being on our own without any of the privileges that you have here in Cebu. We were, you know, living on our own. We cooked, we drove, we did everything on our own. And during college, I lived in the dorms, and I married early. You know, after college, I got married. That was the first thing I did before I did anything else.
Right, you got married.
I got married.
Okay. So you married your high school or your college sweetheart or something? No.
Not really. Well, we met when we were in college.
Okay.
But I was in the U.S. and I met her here.
Okay. In Cebu.
In Manila.
Okay.
In Manila, and yeah, it was love at first sight.
Okay.
Right. And then that's what I told my parents.
Okay.
You know, why wait if you found the right one? And they said, okay, you just sign a contract that you will go to law school and we will allow you to get married.
Okay.
So anyway, so when I went to law school, I was married. And I had 2 kids in law school. So pretty much, you know, early responsibility as a husband and as a father. So pretty much, you know, that's...
In Ateneo de Manila?
In Ateneo.
Okay.
Yeah. So I would say that molded who I am today. Studying in the U.S. in that environment, being there for 8 years, and marrying early, being a husband and father at an early age, going to law school. Actually, law school, that's where my political awareness and political consciousness started, when I was in law school.
Not when you were a child, because from what I understand, did you live in Danao when you were a
did
child?
live in Danao.
Your parents are political parents, especially
Yeah,
your
my
father?
dad was congressman.
Okay, Congressman
Ramonito.
Ramonito Durano, right?
Yes, yes.
So you were born in Cebu, in Danao. So were you
Right.
aware of the political happenings in Danao at that time when you were as a child?
Because during martial law years, I was born 1970.
Okay,
So during the martial law years, I was still quite young
okay.
to be aware
Okay.
of what it's all about, to understand. So it was only when, again, I was in college, especially when I was in Japan. I studied for 1 year
Okay.
in Japan. And that's really when my political consciousness, I guess, was woken up, right? And then law
Why was
school. Because during
When
that
you were
time,
in Japan?
when I was in Japan,
Why is that?
Because in Japan, during that time when I was studying there, Filipinos were known as Japayukis. And for some reason, I didn't appreciate that.
Japayukis are dancers, right?
Right,
Okay.
that's right. That was their only...
Would you consider strip dancers? Is that
Yes,
what a
that's right.
Japayuki is?
They worked in clubs.
Clubs, okay.
And that was their impression of Filipinos. That's where their impression of the Philippines. And probably that impression of mine that I didn't appreciate. Probably I brought that when I was in the Department of Tourism. That partly drove me to show them more than what they've seen or what they've heard about the Philippines. So it was really during the college years that my social awareness, political awareness was woken up, and then in law school again, because law school.
When you say political awareness was awakened, what do you mean exactly? Like in connection to your motherland, or just
No,
general
just-
political awareness?
That's right. The quality of life here in the Philippines is pretty much or determined by the quality of governance. It's that. And being aware of our political history. And that political history bringing us to where we are. And partly as well that we have a choice. We are not necessarily a product of our past. We have a choice of what present we want, what future we want. It was during this time that my ideals, my political values were formed. Then I think, looking back, at the values I've developed over the years, it was really the democratic values in the U.S. that has really
You went to school in
molded-
the United States also, right?
That's right. High school and college.
Okay.
High school and
So
college.
what did you take up in college?
Development studies.
Development studies.
Yeah,
Okay.
development studies. And that's why part of the program was I could study in chosen countries for a year. And I chose Japan.
So that's why you went to Japan
Yeah,
for about a year.
I
So
studied there for
why
a
did you
year.
take up Asian studies? Why did you take up law? What was the plan? Was the plan
There
for
was
you
no
to
plan.
become a politician like your father? What was the mindset?
There was really, if just to show you that I had no plan, graduating from college was I
Okay.
got married.
Okay.
That
that's a plan.
That was the first thing I did. No, I'm just really interested in how nations develop.
Okay.
And that's why I chose Japan, because I was just so impressed
Okay.
that after World War II, they were totally devastated, and they are what they are today. Right? So it was that part of their political, economic history that I was very interested in.
But you were aware of what was going on in the province of Cebu, in Danao, what was going on with your
The
father
Philippines, yeah.
and the Duranos, especially politics in Danao, politics
Yeah.
in the province, politics in Cebu,
Right,
and in
right.
the Philippines. You were
Right.
aware of that, right? You were, although you were in school,
Yes.
back in high school and college, and even
Yes.
in Ateneo de Manila for your law degree.
Right, right.
You were. Did you visit Cebu often? Did you live in Cebu often, or you were mostly in Manila and in the United
No,
States
I
and Japan?
did because because of this social awareness. In fact, my very first scholarship program, I started when I was studying in Japan.
Okay.
It was a spring break. I came home, and I decided that I have to do something
Okay.
for the district.
Okay.
So that's when I started the scholarship program, providing college scholarships to all the student council presidents of the public schools in the district. And at that time, Mitsumi was the benefactor of the scholarship program. So that was the very first, I would say, my way of serving.
Okay.
Yeah. So it really started when I really was in Japan.
So what did you know, or what were you aware of in terms of the way your father and the Duranos ran the district, ran Danao City? What were you aware of?
But Jiggy, this is the only thing I can tell you from my personal experience. The moment I wake up until nighttime, there are just people at our doorstep every day,
Yeah.
just asking for help for all types of problems that they have. And that was the type of service or responsibility I felt that we had, and that was the type of legacy, I believe, that was handed down from my grandfather to my father and to us. And that's why when I was in Congress, and it is tradition by any Durano who becomes a congressman, that you have to be in the district every Saturday, because the people have been used to already since my grandfather time that they can see their congressman every Saturday for whatever concerns that they have.
So you have been doing that, the tradition.
That's right.
A congressman supposedly is a lawmaker, and a congressman stays in Manila most of the time, right?
That's right.
So, but you made it a point to go home
Yes.
to your district in Danao,
Right.
part of which is
Right.
Danao,
Right.
every Saturday.
Every
Okay.
Saturday. Yes.
As
And
part of the tradition.
That's right.
This is a family tradition. This
It's
is
a it's a family tradition. It's it's what's been ingrained as the type of service that you should provide to those that elected you.
I remember the Marcos administration back then, Ferdinand Marcos, or the former president,
Right.
was closely associated with
Right.
the Duranos in
Right.
Danao, right?
Right.
And what were you aware of at that time? What were the things that you were aware of during that
Right.
era?
With the now so many years after, and having more of an objective, hindsight.
Yeah, the benefit of hindsight.
That's right. On this situation. In fact, since the Marcoses, just like today, whoever is serving in politics, incumbent officials would really be associated with the sitting president. Even now, if you look around, our incumbent officials, incumbent mayor, incumbent governor, incumbent senators, incumbent congressmen, they would really be associated with the sitting president. And during that time, it just so happened that my grandfather was congressman when President Marcos became president. And since President Marcos served for so many years,
21 years. Yeah.
21 years, whoever served during that time, not just my grandfather, but anyone who served during that time and served as long as Marcos, would really be associated with him.
So was the association with Marcos or the Marcoses uh, plainly political, or was it also familial?
It was political.
Okay.
It was political. I would, because to me this is history.
Okay, yeah, exactly.
Because I wasn't born yet when,
Yeah.
or I was quite young
Yeah,
when he
yeah.
became president. But in the autobiography of my grandfather, I remember him saying when he became congressman, he saw that Ferdinand Marcos would make a very good president. So it started out really as his own conscious decision, just like today, who we would support for president. So it was nothing personal or familial. It just so happened that he was in Congress, and Ferdinand Marcos was one of the candidates for president during that time, and he chose to support Ferdinand Marcos during that time. And again, that relationship developed over the years, since President Marcos had served for 21 years. And then my grandfather served that long as well in Congress. So they really had just like anyone who served during that time, really had a working relationship with President Marcos.
My memory of that era is also blurry, right?
Right.
My slogan is "Happiness is forgetfulness," but I still remember a lot of violence associated with Danao City during elections. There were armies and stuff. Can you expound on that? Because that's all I remember. I would listen to the radio as a child, and I would be with my mom, because my mom is also is a political junkie like I am. And then I would remember like a lot of violence in the street during elections, like people getting harassed and stuff like that. And it would be associated with your family. Maybe you can give me your perspective of that memory of mine.
Yeah, again, with the benefit of hindsight. Objective history of this period in our life, nation's political life. If you look at developing nations, not only in the Philippines, it was always part of the political maturity of a population, that the higher the political maturity, the more civil the political processes will be. I see that here today. During that time, probably the political maturity of the people then, the political culture was very different.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because I remember my dad was telling me the first time that he joined an election, he was ambushed. Somebody threw a hand grenade at them. It was a good thing that the grenade hit a lamppost and did not reach where he was.
What year was this? I mean, was it this first term?
No, it was still in the 70s.
Okay.
Right. So the political culture was, it was the...
It's still happening in some parts of the Philippines, unfortunately, though.
Right. So I would say it is really,
It was part of the culture of the time.
Well, it's a political culture probably influenced by the political maturity of...
Or immaturity, for that matter, of the nation, right, at that time.
Right, at that time.
Was your father, or was your who was the first politician Durano?
My grandfather.
Your grandfather.
Yeah. When he first ran in the 1963, I think, when he first ran, he was actually the opposition.
Okay.
Because
the opposition against?
There was another political family at that time.
Who was incumbent? Who was the president at that time?
I think it was Sergio Osmeña.
Sergio Osmeña, okay.
I would think.
Okay.
Right. And of course, the incumbent congressman at that time was the one allied
with Sergio Osmeña.
Yeah, who was the incumbent president also at that time. So he ran as an opposition, and at that time, I think President Marcos also ran as the opposition. That's why he was aligned with President Marcos during the
From
time.
the beginning.
From the very
Okay,
beginning.
before he became president. I
Right.
mean, Marcos before he became president.
when he ran for
Yeah,
president.
yeah, yeah.
Because they were really both in the opposition.
When you wrote that line or that paragraph in the book that your father said, was it your grandfather who
My
said
grandfather, yeah.
that Marcos would make a great president? Was it early on, or what did he mean by that? What was the context in which he said that?
He just saw the character in, the intellect.
Yeah.
Was
Was it before he ran? Was it during his first term? Would you remember?
I
what
don't
he
remember exactly when, but
Okay.
I just remember my grandfather saying
Okay.
that he supported him because he saw the making of a
Okay.
good president.
Okay.
Yeah. So they were both opposition when they both first ran.
Okay.
So that's why they were aligned. Yeah. So this was in 1963, if I'm not mistaken.
So, if I don't know if you can tell me this, but why did your father decide to become a politician? I mean, like he was the first Durano politician. Your grandfather, he ran for Congress. What was the circumstance in which he ran for public office? What was he doing?
You mean
before?
my
your
father?
grandfather?
My grandfather. My grandfather. Well, before my grandfather ran, he was already a successful businessman.
Okay, all right. In Danao.
In Danao,
Okay.
right. In fact, he started the first coal mine in Danao.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Right after the war, because during the war, they migrated to Leyte.
Okay.
And when he was in Leyte with my grandmother, they started a copras business there. And then after the war, whatever they saved up when they were in Leyte, they went back to Danao, and he started the first coal mine in Danao. And that's where his business grew. But that was the beginning there. In his autobiography, he was saying that because of the wealth that the businesses and the people that he has helped along the way, just like today, normally if you go to our towns, normally people would ask someone who is quite generous, helping others, why won't you run for public office? So it came out that way, that people that he has helped along the way told him,
So
why
he
won't
started
you run?
as a businessman,
Right.
and he decided to run for congressman. That was his
Right.
first position that he ran for.
Right.
This was during the time when Marcos also ran for president.
That's right.
After Sereng Osmeña.
Right.
So you have been, I venture in saying, correct me if I'm wrong, you have been a political, I don't know if it's too much of a stretch, a political dynasty in Danao. You have been in Danao, the Duranos have been running Danao
Yeah.
since then, since that moment when your father ran for congressman back in the 70s, right?
My grandfather.
Your grandfather, yeah, I'm sorry.
1960s,
So
yes.
would that be a safe description, a dynasty? Is that a correct word? I'm asking you.
Yeah, if only we were not elected,
Okay, okay.
then probably
A dynasty.
that's
Okay.
accurate.
But you were elected every single election from that moment until today.
Right,
Okay.
right. So since it's if you're elected, it's a misnomer to call it a dynasty, because
Okay.
a dynasty is royalty, right? You're
Yeah.
born into it.
Yeah, yeah.
It's if you have if you're
It's a
relative,
birthright. It's a birthright, right?
right? It's a birthright. But this one, it is a responsibility, and it's a responsibility that you have to earn by being voted into whatever position, And we've seen already in the province that several political families have already been voted out of office. They're no longer there. They were contemporaries of my grandfather, contemporaries of my father, and for some reason they were not re-elected by people. So there has to be a reason why people keep on re-electing
So
somebody in the
which brings me to
family.
my next question. What is the secret to the Durano family's longevity in being constantly elected in the municipality of Danao?
That tradition of service, that legacy that brand of service, that quality of service that was started by my grandfather, handed to my father, and handed to us. That mindset that you just have to be available, regardless of what position you're in. You just have to be available. You know, people must just be able to approach you, must have access to you easily for whatever concerns they may have. I mean, that is just the brand of service that we've been trying to live up to since my grandfather's time. And in the words of my grandfather, he would say that I serve the people of Danao from cradle to grave.
I heard that line before too.
That's
I
his.
hear that a lot. I associate that with the Duranos.
Yeah.
That you take care of your people from cradle to grave. Maybe you could expound on that, because I've heard that many times.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a fact of life.
Okay.
I mean, especially during these times, during the pandemic, so many people lost jobs, lost livelihood. So, it's difficult. And it's just not in Danao. But, of course, the first person that the person in need would look up to, would approach, would be an elected official. Yeah. Whether that elected official is available, accessible, charitable, that's a different story. But as far as my grandfather's concerned, the family is concerned, that has been the tradition that has been there. That cradle, that means that when somebody gives birth, they'll need some funds for medical bills, for the hospital. When somebody dies, they would need also burial assistance and everything in between, for schooling, for livelihood. So that's really what it means, that from cradle.
So that's
to
the
grave.
brand of the Durano politics or service. You take
Right.
care of your people from cradle to grave.
That's right. That's
Okay.
right.
So
I mean,
the Durano brand has been in public service since your grandfather ran back in the 70s. So it has become sort of like a tradition, right?
Right.
Almost like really part of what the now is. But see, the thing with traditions, Sec, is
Yes.
that the thing with things that we're so used to is that it's not always just because everybody believes in something does not make it right.
Okay.
My example for this is there's a story about a tradition of cooking or baking turkey.
Right.
They always have to slash or chip off a small fraction of
Right.
the turkey. I don't know if you've heard the story. Every time they put it inside the oven
Okay.
during Thanksgiving.
Okay.
And they were asking their parents, "Why are you chopping that off?" "I don't know. Like, I just chop it off because
Yeah.
that's tradition.
Yeah,
we are
yeah.
so used to that. We don't know why."
Yeah.
So finally, they tried to trace, why the hell do you chop off a
Right.
piece of the turkey? And as it turns out, their grandfather or great-grandfather had a small oven, and he had to chop it off so that
So
may
it
go
would
siya,
fit.
it'll
Yeah.
may go siya sa oven. So they just chopped it off for no apparent reason, mindlessly,
Right.
because that's a
Yeah,
thing,
yeah,
you know.
yeah.
So what I'm trying to say here is, the Duranos have been around for such a long time,
Right.
and it's almost like automatic, right? Like, you're like, who else, man? Durano. So the question here is, do you think it is a good thing for the people of a district, a municipality? It is still a municipality, not yet a city,
It's
right?
city.
Already, sorry, I'm so sorry. Yeah, it
Yeah.
is already a city. Sorry,
Yeah.
my politics had a blind spot there. So Danao is already a city. The city of Danao, will it be served better if there are also other names, perhaps? Maybe like other ideas.
Right, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do you think it is a good thing, or is it a bad thing?
But just like in business, competition is always better.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So That's why we have elections.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
So that there can be competition.
Yeah,
At the end of the day, what's important is that people get to choose freely.
Yeah.
That's to me that's most important.
Okay.
That our elections are fair. Our elections are free of any manipulation.
Okay.
You know, that's what's important. That the will of the people will really get expressed as to their choice of their elected leader.
Okay.
Yeah. So to me, that's most important. As far as the family is concerned, what I've seen is that less and less of us, especially in the next generation, is going into politics. You know, so
Less and less of your family?
yes,
Okay.
going into politics. So, but whether or not the family will be there for how many more years, that really depends on the people. You know, if they feel that they want us to continue to serve them, then they will continue to vote us into office. And if they feel that they want others to serve them, or they want others to serve them, then they'll vote someone else.
Yeah.
Again, what I've seen here in the province, political families have been voted out of office.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
You know, and we've seen that.
Yeah.
So
It happens.
It happens. So it's not that people don't have the free will to do it, because we've seen it.
Yeah.
They'll do it
Yeah.
if they're not happy anymore. You know.
So if the Durano service is like a brand of service, you know, that's what kept you in power for such a long time, right? But being in government is about policies, right? It's about a way of governing. It's about looking at the welfare of your people, and there are always new ways, different ways of attacking that welfare problem, right?
Sure.
How do you, since you've been running Danao for such a long time, the family, how do you try to get new ideas? How do you become new? How do you see the other side? How do you become more objective with what you do? I guess is the question.
Yeah, it's you know, it's your kind of leadership.
Okay.
As long as you have a collaborative and open leadership, then there always will be new ideas and new ways for you to be able to tackle situations or issues of the day. I don't think that being there for a long time is an issue.
Yeah.
Right? Just like most businesses, the businesses that are like our biggest conglomerates are the longest businesses around. But what keeps them current is the openness in the partnerships, the collaboration with other sectors. And that's a type of leadership, that's a type of openness and collaboration and transparency that leadership needs, government leadership needs, not just Danao, the province, the country, you know, because you really need all sectors to participate. And that's what really I've seen when I was in DOT. You know, I believe we were able to come out with our programs and turn around foreign tourism during that time in such a short period of time was because of collaboration. Not a single person has the solution to everything.
Exactly.
Right? Whoever you are, in whatever sector you're in, you really need collaboration. Whether you're a business leader, a community leader, a political leader, you don't have the solution to everything. You know, well, your responsibility is to be open and to collaborate with other leaders. That's the only way for you to really solve complex problems.
Tourism Secretary for 6 years.
6 years.
6 years during the GMA administration, right?
Right.
I remember I was looking at the statistics of our Asian neighbors in terms of numbers of tourists, and I think one of the countries that I studied was Thailand, I think, and they have like I don't know, forgot, right, 30, 40 million tourists a year or something like that, and the Philippines at that time was only like, I don't know, like 10 or one-fourth of that or something like that. How's that working out for us? Tourism, because I know that you were very passionate, and I saw all of your campaigns. They were beautiful, and we were so proud that it was a Cebuano who was at the helm of the Department of Tourism at that time. How's that? How's tourism working out for us now, in this day and age? Maybe during the pandemic and all of that.
Yeah. Well, what we need to do, especially for Cebu, is to bring back international tourism as quickly as possible. If we want our economy to recover. Actually, for me, that's the fastest way our economy can recover here in Cebu, is to bring back foreign tourists as early as possible. But for us to safely do that, we need to achieve a higher level of vaccination rate. And secondly, we really need to really improve our public healthcare sector.
So not just vaccination, when you say healthcare.
That's right. When I came in DOT in 2004, there was a crisis in confidence. At that time, as far as our industry players in the Philippines, they didn't have confidence in the country's tourism sector. And also internationally, the markets didn't have confidence in us as well as a tourist destination. And the issue then was because of the high criminality, kidnappings. That was really the main issue during that time. There were so many kidnappings. So that was the issue we had to tackle. When I came in DOT, I sat down with all the industry players, and at that time, I could understand they were bickering. There's nothing we can do. We have to change this and that. But I've said we cannot control the entire country, but we have a better control of our destinations. So let's focus on our destinations. How can we present our destinations to be safe to our target markets? So what we did, for the very first time, working with the Philippine National Police, we had the tourist cops. And that was the first time that PNP started having tourist cops in all our destinations. And secondly,
what's a tourist cop?
They were just police officers, but assigned in tourist destinations.
Okay, like a tourist spot, for example.
That's right.
Okay.
So what we wanted was just higher visibility for the police to be very visible in our tourist destinations, right? So to keep criminality down in our tourist destinations. Second, we worked with the Navy, and the Navy created the Task Force Stingray, where they had naval assets just roaming in Central Philippines. Central Philippines is from Bicol all the way to Northern Mindanao, Camiguin. That is really where most of our beach destinations are. And our beach destinations are really our top product for our foreign tourists. So with
those, be roving around.
Just to make sure that there will be no raiding. No raiding in our resorts, because it happened before in Samal Island. So we presented that to our foreign tourist markets, and confidence started coming back, and before you know it, foreign tourist arrivals started growing. In fact, if you look at the statistics, during the 6 years that I was in DOT, our focus was really foreign tourism, to bring in more foreign tourists. Because a single foreign tourist during that time would spend 10,000 pesos a day. So that's a very big multiplier for our economy. So we focused on that. So for the entire time that we were there for 6 years, foreign tourism grew an average of 10% per annum. So, and it continues still today until the pandemic, actually.
Where were you? Would you be aware of where we were before the pandemic? in terms of number? Are we were we
Oh.
approaching the Thailand
No, no,
numbers
no.
before the pandemic or tourism?
We've studied that as well. Thailand and Malaysia and Singapore, they have the benefit of their geography, where they share borders. They share borders with China. And if you look at their tourist arrivals, bulk of it is really coming from China. Okay? So they have that advantage. But if you look at our European arrivals and American arrivals, we're even higher than them. Like for Malaysia, for example, Malaysia also has in the tens of millions. But most of their tourists are Singaporeans crossing border just for the day.
Neighbors lang, mga neighbors
Yeah,
lang.
just for the day.
Okay.
That is really their foreign tourism there, which is inter-ASEAN.
Yeah.
That's their foreign tourism. We don't have
So
that
unfair
advantage
advantage sila kaya they're very close
to each other. Yeah, you can just drive.
Yeah.
For us, we are an archipelago.
Yeah.
And in ASEAN, we're the only one that's actually separated by an ocean.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? So, so what we did, in fact, during that time, our arrivals from Germany, our arrivals from France, our arrivals from UK was so much higher than our arrivals from other ASEAN countries.
You said during that time, during your time when you were Department of Tourism Secretary?
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. So that was really our focus then. We were focusing on the European markets and the North Asian markets, Japan, Korea, and China. And we opened up during that time for the first time Russia and India, the new middle class in these countries. We signed air agreements. We opened up air routes just for them to get here. And again, during that time, foreign tourism, in the last SONA of President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, she really acknowledged the contribution of tourism during that time. And I feel we should be doing that for the quick recovery of Cebu's economy.
I guess because of the pandemic, the tourism industry is back to zero for
right.
everyone, right?
That's
so
right.
I guess me bringing up the numbers of our ASEAN neighbors like Thailand and Malaysia and Singapore is useless. So you mentioned that we need to have a high level of vaccination to be able to revive
And really improve our public healthcare system.
but I don't know if you have figures on this, Sec, but during the pandemic, there were a lot of local tourists, right? In fact, a lot of local tourists helped a lot of businesses
Yeah.
sprout
Right.
in many parts of Cebu, right?
Right.
Tell us about the role of local tourists.
Right. Yeah. You know, if before the pandemic, nationwide, if we look at local travelers, we were already reaching in the 50 to 60 million local travelers
Okay.
a year. However, Cebu's tourism, if you look at all the investments in tourism here, the big resorts, these investments, for it to be feasible, it really requires foreign tourism. Domestic tourism is just not enough, especially if we want to drive the economy, especially if we want the economy to recover. Domestic tourism is just not enough. For even now,
in this strange times, I mean, domestic tourism, the numbers that we have now during this pandemic are quite high because nobody can get out of the country, right?
Right.
So even at that number, it's still
really
not enough. Okay.
Because we were already getting close to 5 million foreign tourists, and
You're talking about Cebu now, right?
no, this country.
The entire country.
The-
5 million
5 million foreign tourists. And Annually.
Okay.
And the contribution of that would be in the range of 50 to 100 billion peso.
Okay.
And domestic tourism just does not come close to that level of tourism receipt. Right? And most of the big investments in tourism here really had the foreign markets in mind for their investments to be feasible. But again, I always distinguished. We build our tourism spots. We create open spaces, outdoor spaces for the Filipinos, not because they are tourists, but because it's required for their well-being. There's really a difference between tourism development and creating recreational facilities for the population. Because for especially now, the pandemic, where you cannot really be in enclosed environments, the only outlet would really be outdoor. It's really part of maintaining well-being of the population. And for me, that is really the motivation for opening up or developing more outdoor spaces.
And for example, this venue, this is the place, the restaurant made for the brave new world, right? Outdoors,
That's
right?
right.
Cafe.
Yeah.
So we have to have more of these, right?
Recreation is really part of well-being, maintaining well-being.
Absolutely, yeah.
And that's why we need to encourage, going to Balamban yesterday, coming back, there in Gaas, in Barangay Gaas, along the Trans Central Highway, there are so many outdoor bars and cafes that has opened up. I mean, and every time I pass there at around 5:30, it's always full. You need these places as well for the population. But talking about tourism development as an economic driver for the country, you really need foreign tourism.
Tourism. I know that you're famous for your being a tourism secretary because you were the Department of Tourism Secretary back in 2004. But I'm sure that ACE Durano is not a one-trick pony, right? I'm sure tourism is not the only game in your arsenal.
No.
So maybe you can tell us, aside from being the tourism guy when you become governor of the province of Cebu, what other major changes, what other things will you be able to introduce to the province of Cebu?
But as I was saying, part of our economic recovery is to really get our public healthcare system, better. And we have provincial hospitals all over the province, but they're in very sad state. That's why during the surge in August, 70% of the patients in our hospitals here, private hospitals here in Metro Cebu, were actually from outside Metro Cebu. And even our private hospitals here ran out of rooms because they could not be treated in our provincial hospitals. To my mind, healthcare is the most basic of all government services. And for a rich province, for a rich provincial government like Cebu, it should have the best provincial healthcare system. And that is that's our priority with Vice Governor Junjun.
I was with my uncle yesterday who celebrated his birthday. And he lives in Dakit in Barili, right?
Right?
And every time he has to get a consultation, he has to go to Cebu City. So this is close to my heart. How can we fix that? You mentioned you'll have because there are levels of healthcare, right? Levels of hospital. I don't know. I forgot.
That's right.
And then it seems to me that the facilities of the hospital in Barili is not enough to diagnose whatever he is feeling, right? So maybe you can give me more information about the healthcare plan.
The ideal setup would be the provincial hospital in Karkar, in Balamban, in Argao, in Danao and Bogo. This should be level 2.
Level 2,
provincial hospitals where you have specialists, doctor specialists, complete doctor specialists, complete equipments that it can perform surgeries. We're not even there. This is what we want to do with Vice Gov Junjun. We want to get all of these hospitals to level 2 so that there would be no need for patients from outside Metro to Cebu to come to Metro to Cebu. It would only be the really highly specialized cases that would need to come to Metro Cebu, but most of cases should be handled by level 2 hospitals, and that's what we want to do.
You know, that sounds so beautiful, Ace. But right now, in this pandemic, we even have problems paying our nurses, right? I mean, financially, you mentioned that the province of Cebu is a rich
Right.
province,
Yeah.
right? Rich LGU.
Right.
How do you intend to pay for all those specialists in
Right.
Balamban, in Karkar?
Right.
Can we afford it?
We can really afford it. That, you know, before I came out and saying that this is my priority, we studied the budget of the provincial government.
Okay.
The budget of the provincial government is 15 billion a year.
Okay.
It's just not being placed in that priority.
Okay.
They're just being placed elsewhere. But if that will be prioritized, and with the budget of the provincial government, it can really be done. It can be done. Aside from the annual revenues and the annual budget of the provincial government that is 15 billion this year, it will be 18 billion next year. The provincial government has assets that it can be leveraged to raise capital in order to fully develop our hospital system.
Okay.
You know, it also has billions in real estate that it can really be leveraged to raise capital to improve our hospital system.
Aside from that, one of the growing problems of a municipality municipality, especially the component cities of Lapu-Lapu, Minglanilla, that's a municipality, Talisay, Mandaue,
Right.
is traffic congestion, right?
Right.
I mean, like, I go to Minglanilla regularly, to
Yeah.
Naga City, and at a certain time, traffic is just
Right.
an absolute nightmare, right?
Right.
So, and traffic, if thousands of cars are stuck in the middle of the road, there's a
Right.
cost to it, right?
Right.
There's a cost to it. So maybe, I'm not sure if you can give me a figure. I also ask this question to other candidates. What do you think is the cost of traffic, and what would the cost be to solve the traffic problem of the province?
Yeah, it's a good thing you asked that. Earlier today, I had a meeting with the public transport sector of the province.
Okay.
These are the public transport operators
Okay.
of the province. They're the one operating the multi-cabs, the PUJs, the buses, the taxis. And part of our economic, I was pitching to them that part really of the economic recovery of Cebu is to really to improve the public transport, you know, and our focus should be mobility, right? Because right now the focus is really on infrastructure, building more roads. You know, the focus should be mobility, because there are certain things we can change, and that would make moving from point A to point B faster without building a single road, right? One would be just modernize our jeepneys, for example, coordinating traffic rules. These are just simple things that can be done that can really make it faster to move from point A to point B. But again, this would require really collaboration, you know, because in our setup right now, each local government unit can decide on its own traffic rules, you know. So it's only the provincial government that can really coordinate all of these traffic rules, can synchronize all public transport routes. So it really requires the provincial government to come in and to rationalize the public transport sector, because again, the goal here is really mobility, to make sure that people can move from point A to point B faster.
So you're suggesting a public transport system outside of the public utility vehicles?
No, actually,
when you say mobility,
yes, when I say mobility, you just really improve the efficiency of our present system.
Okay.
I was telling them, and many of them been able to travel to Japan. I told them, I'm always jealous with the public transport system of Japan. Moving from train to taxi, taxi to bus, bus to a boat, boat to an airplane. It's just so efficient.
You don't have to use your own private car.
No.
Too. Okay.
I lived in Japan for a year. I just use public transport. And it's easier. In fact, their public transport is so efficient, it's a disincentive for you to drive your own car. What people do, they would only, even the very, very rich people, they will not drive their cars. They will use the public transport because it is the fastest way to get to point A to point B.
Okay, Japan is another story, right? Is that even translatable? Is that even, I mean, like, what part of Japan can we bring down here? I mean,
no, that's why when I decided to study another country for the way they develop, I chose Japan.
Okay.
Because they were just totally destroyed.
Right? By the war, right?
By the war.
Yeah.
And they went through what we went through.
Yeah.
They went through the developing stage. Every nation goes through what we're going through.
Yeah.
Before reaching developed stage, you have to go through the developing stage. It's not an overnight accomplishment. But they did it. We just have to start doing it.
Okay.
We just have to start doing it. And like for Japan, for example, they're a very close ally of the Philippines. They love Cebu.
Yeah, they have a lot of projects here. In fact, that Cordova Bridge is a project between the Philippines, Cebu, and Japan, right?
And and we have the benefit of their experience now.
Yeah.
We have the benefit of their expertise. We even have the benefit of their capital. To my mind, the reason why I really ran for governor, because I felt, an alternative vision and an alternative platform, an alternative way of doing things is really needed. I mean, we've heard of this problems for the longest time. Situation on the ground is very bad because of the pandemic, but nothing has been done about it. And I feel, again, unless somebody gives voice to this, unless somebody really stands up and offers an alternative, there's no way of changing things.
They say that you can tell how cosmopolitan or civilized, maybe is the appropriate word, a municipality is or city is when you see the number of the least of their brothers, our brothers and sisters' lives get elevated.
Right.
And I think one of the problems here in the Philippines is we've had growth. We've been called the Tiger of Asia for a long time, but our growth has never been inclusive, right? There are still segments of society that have been left behind.
That's right.
I think the challenge for every sitting governor is to make the growth inclusive, right? And bring up the least of our brothers and sisters. How do we get to that? How do we develop a growth that is inclusive?
Yeah, that's the reason I'm so gung-ho about tourism. When I was in DOT and now, because it is one of the most inclusive industries there can be. It leverages on the natural, advantages of a place, cultural advantages of the place. It includes the participation of all communities, especially our kind of tourism where it's nature-based. It really touches on the outskirts. The metro areas, they become a hub for tourists when they land, when they do other of their conveniences, but they go out to experience nature, to experience culture, to experience the country. So that's why I'm so gung-ho about pushing foreign tourism.
So tourism, you feel, will help bring about inclusive growth.
That's right. Especially agriculture and fisheries, where most of our most Filipinos are still employed. I mean, there's still a big Cebu, for example. A majority of Cebuanos are still in agriculture, but not much is being placed there. But a tourism-led growth necessarily has to bring in agricultural development as well. Because how are you gonna? It provides for that. It provides for a market for our agricultural products and for our fisheries products.
Your handlers are giving me the time is up already. Sec, so we're going to try to wrap this up as quickly as we can. Maybe we'll have a part 2 of this if you have time, if you're ever so kind. So you mentioned that you want an alternative voice. You want the people, the province of Cebu, to have another way of helping the province of Cebu, another person to look at, an alternative. That's the word that you use. What is your elevator pitch to the province of Cebu, Ace?
But again, for the quickest way for our economy to recover, we have to bring back international tourism in the shortest possible time. But for us to be able to do that, there's a lot of preparations needed so that we can bring them back safely. Safe for the foreign tourists and safe for all of us Cebuanos.
If they'd like to get in touch with you, Ace, on the social media platforms, maybe you can invite them.
Please follow me on ACE Durano Official on Facebook.
Yeah, are you active with your social media platforms already?
Yes, I am.
Do you do TikTok too?
Yes.
Once or twice.
He has a TikTok?
Once or twice.
Okay, all right. Sampol ko na, sampol.
Once or twice.
Okay, and Instagram as well, Twitter, go ahead.
Yeah.
Website, go ahead.
Yeah.
It's just your name, Ace Durano.
Yeah, just Ace Durano.
Okay.
You'll find me there.
All right, before you wrap this up, there's a lot of drama going on now. Just a few hours ago, Mayor Sara Duterte withdrew her candidacy for mayor, and it looks like he's going to run for national position. It could be vice president. It could be president. What are your thoughts on the national race, Ace, and who do you think will you be supporting?
Well, you know, my party, I'm in PPP, Partidong Pilipino sa Pagbabago. This party was created for the presidential bid of Mayor Inday. So we are just awaiting her decision. In fact, that's why they're calling me, because we're supposed to, PPP is supposed to
make an announcement already?
Have a leadership caucus right now.
All right.
Where there'll be an announcement.
So you'll probably know tonight.
Right there. I'll be able to tell you guys.
Is running for president.
Since Mike is here. I think he knows already what's happening.
Oh no! So who do you think? Who do you want her vice president to be personally?
You know, we have no talks whatsoever of vice president. But from what I know, from what I hear from Mike,
come on, give me a scoop, man. Come on.
I think her personal choice is really BBM.
As vice president.
As vice president.
What if he says no?
There has been no talks whatsoever.
What is that meeting with Pacquiao and Duterte in Malacanang? What was that? Is that connected?
Your guess is just as good as mine. But I hope they'll have some update.
And maybe I'll ask you again.
All right.
With a microphone and a ring light and a camera.
All right.
Ladies and gentlemen, the former Tourism Secretary, former Congressman, and now running for the Cebu City or the Cebu Province Governor. Ace Durano. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. That was amazing. Thank you so much. It's just not enough time to talk to you, Sec. Thank you, and tell me about what that meeting is all about. Thank you so much. Thank you. Take care.
You'll still be here. Right?
Yeah.
When your car runs out of batteries in the middle of the night, just call 340-8989 and everything will be alright. No batteries, no cash, no problem. You can use your credit card with our wireless wiper. At all batteries, just call all batteries. Contact
contact our new 24/7 hotline at 340-8989. No batteries, no cash, no problem. All batteries.
This episode is brought to you by All Batteries. Our delivery never sleeps, day and night, rain or shine, no holidays. Call them at 340-8989. That's 340-8989. Or visit their Facebook page at facebook.com/allbatteries. Delivery, jumpstart, warranty, and assist 24/7 at All Batteries. More batteries, more power.